No one really talks about this part of healing. The part where you know you are growing, but you still feel sad. The part where your life is changing, but your heart still misses the woman you had to become just to survive. Because sometimes growth does not only feel like freedom, sometimes it feels like grief. Sometimes it feels like standing between two versions of yourself. The one who carried so much for so long, and the one God is slowly inviting you to become. And that space in between, it can feel tender, confusing, lonely, even when you know you are moving in the right direction. So if you have been feeling emotional lately, if you have been missing parts of your old self, if you have been wondering why becoming still hurts sometimes, this message is for you. Take a breath. You are not going backward. You are not broken. And you are not weak for feeling grief in a season of growth. You may simply be mourning the woman you had to be. And today, I want to talk about that gently. And stay with me until the end, because if this message speaks to your heart, the next step after grieving who you had to be is learning how to trust the woman you're becoming. Before anything else, let's say this clearly. The version of you that survived hard seasons is not your enemy. She may have been guarded. She may have been tired. She may have been hyper-independent. She may have stopped asking for help. She may have become strong in ways that look calm on the outside, but felt heavy on the inside. But she got you through. She learned how to function while hurting, how to keep going while depleted, how to show up while carrying silent battles no one else could fully see. And maybe now, as you begin to soften, as you begin to heal, as you begin to choose peace over performance and truth over survival, part of you feels emotional because you are not just changing habits, you are releasing an identity, and that is a very deep thing. Sometimes we think healing should only feel relieving, but healing can also feel like loss. Because when an old version of you begins to fall away, you are not only leaving pain behind, you are also leaving behind familiar patterns, protective responses, coping mechanisms, ways of being that once made you feel safe. Even if those ways were heavy, they were known. And sometimes what is familiar feels harder to release than what is actually good for us. So if part of you is grieving, do not shame yourself for that. Honor her, the woman you had to be carried more than most people know. This is important. You can miss who you used to be without needing to go back to being her. You can understand why she existed without staying trapped in her patterns. You can thank her without building your future around survival mode. Because sometimes when life gets quiet, or change starts happening, or healing begins to ask more of us, we become tempted to run back to old versions of strength. The version that never needed anyone. The version that kept everything inside. The version that pushed through exhaustion. The version that stayed busy so she would not have to feel. The version that called numbness being strong. But survival strength and healed strength are not the same. Survival strength says, I have to carry all of this alone. Healed strength says, I can be supported and still be strong. Survival strength says, I cannot fall apart, not even for a moment. Healed strength says, I am allowed to be human while I rebuild. Survival strength says, keep performing, keep proving, keep pushing. Healed strength says, I do not have to earn rest, peace, or softness. And if you are in a season where God is teaching you a gentler way to live, it can feel strange at first. Because peace feels unfamiliar when you have lived a long time in pressure. Softness feels unsafe when you have survived by staying guarded. Rest can even feel guilty when your worth has been tied to how much you carry. So yes, you may miss the woman who helped you survive, but you do not need to become her again. There are versions of ourselves we create because life required something from us. Maybe you became the strong one, the fixer, the helper, the one who held everything together, the one who did not cry, the one who kept smiling, the one who carried everyone else but quietly abandoned herself. And people may have praised that version of you. They may have called you reliable, resilient, selfless, strong. But sometimes what people praise is actually a version of you that was built in pain. A version that learned how to survive unmet needs, unspoken disappointments, loneliness, burnout, heartbreak, pressure. And now that you are growing, now that you are slowing down enough to hear yourself again, you may realize something hard. Some of what looked like strength was actually exhaustion in disguise. Some of what looked like maturity was actually emotional overfunctioning. Some of what looked like independence was actually a fear of being let down. And that realization can bring grief because suddenly you are not only healing your future, you are reinterpreting your past. You are seeing with fresh eyes how much you carried, how much you normalized, how much you tolerated, and how long you lived disconnected from your own needs. That can be painful, but it is also holy because truth is what begins to set you free. One of the hardest parts of becoming is learning to live without the armor that once protected you. Maybe your armor was perfectionism. Maybe it was people-pleasing. Maybe it was emotional distance. Maybe it was being constantly productive. Maybe it was always staying fine. Maybe it was acting like nothing bothered you because vulnerability felt too dangerous. Armor helps us survive, but it also keeps intimacy out, peace out, rest out, real connection out, even joy, because armor does not know how to filter. It blocks pain, but it can also block tenderness. And this is why gentle rebuilding can feel so emotional. You are not just learning how to heal. You are learning how to live without armor, how to be honest without collapsing, how to have boundaries without guilt, how to need people without shame, how to rest without feeling lazy, how to be soft without feeling unsafe. That is deep rebuilding, and it does not happen overnight. So please do not expect yourself to become a completely new woman in 1 week. This journey is sacred. It takes time to unclench after years of holding everything so tightly. It takes time to trust peace when chaos has been familiar. It takes time to believe that your worth still exists, even when you are no longer constantly proving it. Some women feel guilty when they begin to change. Guilty for setting new boundaries. Guilty for becoming less available. Guilty for no longer over-explaining. Guilty for choosing peace. Guilty for outgrowing relationships, roles, or patterns that once defined them. But hear this. You are not dishonoring your past by outgrowing it. You are not betraying the woman who survived by becoming the woman who is healing. You are not ungrateful because you no longer want to live in survival mode. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to stop carrying what was never yours to hold forever. You are allowed to become someone who breathes more deeply, lives more honestly, moves more slowly, trusts more fully, and abandons herself less. Growth is not disrespectful to the old you. In many ways, it is how you honor her. Because you are finally giving her what she may not have had enough of. Safety, care, rest, truth, space to feel, permission to be held. That is not rejection. That is repair. And this is why healing is not only about letting go of the old version of you. It is also about learning to trust who you are becoming now. I want to come back to that before we close, because that may be the next part of your journey. Grief does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like crying and not fully knowing why. Sometimes it looks like feeling emotional after making a healthy choice. Sometimes it looks like missing people you have outgrown. Sometimes it looks like feeling tired after finally putting down a role you were never meant to carry forever. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like saying, I know I am healing, but this still hurts. And that is okay. Because grief is not always a sign that you are in the wrong place. Sometimes it is proof that something important is being released. So if this season feels tender, do not rush yourself. Do not force yourself to be fully healed by tomorrow. Do not reduce your becoming to a productivity goal. Sit with yourself gently. Ask yourself, what am I mourning? What part of me is afraid to let go? What old version of me still thinks she has to survive alone? What am I finally allowed to lay down? These questions matter because gentle rebuilding is not just about what you are building. It is also about what you are finally allowed to stop carrying. The woman you are becoming does not need more pressure. She needs peace. She does not need more proving. She needs truth. She does not need more noise. She needs clarity. She does not need more emotional self-abandonment. She needs honesty. She does not need to keep being everything for everyone. She needs room to hear her own soul again. And maybe that is the invitation of this season. Not to become harder, not to become colder, not to become more impressive, but to become more whole, more rooted, more aligned, more at peace with who God is shaping you to be. The woman you are becoming may look quieter than the woman who survived, but do not mistake quiet for weakness. There is incredible strength in a woman who no longer has to live on edge to feel valuable. There is incredible beauty in a woman who no longer needs chaos to feel needed. There is incredible power in a woman who can say, I am not who I used to be, and I do not need to become her again to move forward. So let me ask you gently, what version of you have you been grieving? The always strong version? The always available version? The version who kept pushing? The version who survived by shutting down? The version who gave too much and asked for too little? Can you thank her without letting her lead your next chapter? Can you honor what she carried without expecting her to carry you forever? Can you trust that God is not erasing you? He is restoring you. Let that sit on your heart, because maybe this is not the end of you. Maybe this is the first time you are finally becoming someone who feels safe to live inside. If this speaks to you, say this quietly with me. I honor the woman who helped me survive, but I do not have to stay who I was in pain. I am allowed to heal. I am allowed to soften. I am allowed to outgrow survival mode. I am allowed to choose peace over pressure. I am allowed to release what no longer reflects who I am becoming. I am not going backward. I am rebuilding with grace. I am becoming whole. If this message found you in a tender place today, write this in the comments. I honor who I was, but I am becoming whole. And when this video ends, do not stop here. Watch my next message, Learning to Trust Yourself Again. Because grieving the woman you had to be is only one part of healing. The next step is learning to trust the woman God is shaping you to become. I want you to remember this. You can grieve the woman you had to be and still be grateful for where God is taking you. You can feel sadness and growth at the same time. You can miss the familiar and still choose the healthier path. And you can honor your survival without building your future around your wounds. That is what gentle rebuilding looks like. Not force, not performance, not pretending, just honest, sacred becoming. And if this is your kind of message, stay with me here on Dream Life Diaries, because you are not behind. You are not broken. And you are not the only woman learning how to rebuild softly. Some versions of you were built to survive. This season is teaching you how to live.